Happy New Year and welcome back to the Real GI Doc Show. I'm your host, Dr. Fred Gandolfo. I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist with a medical practice in New York. Did you make a New Year's resolution this year? I never do it because I think if you want to change something, you just do it right away. You don't have to wait for some arbitrary date. But last year was an exhausting race to the finish. I had a bunch of arbitrary deadlines between work and this podcast, and I got pretty much everything done, but it was exhausting. So this year, I kind of do have resolutions, or maybe it's more of just a mantra that I'm going to try to live by. And that is simplify. I need to simplify things. So confession time. I have a tendency to overcomplicate and overthink things. I try to do more things and squeeze more out of my time pretty much all the time. And this ends up leading to getting some stuff done, but lots of mental stress, physical stress, and the feeling like I'm drowning all the time. And most of this is self-inflicted. I have to realize that. So when something is under control, I end up finding some other thing to focus my energy on, to optimize, to learn some new thing, to play around with some new project. And this just leads to constant busyness. There's always something there to fill that void. And it's not always a good thing. So the reason why I'm even making this episode and sharing this is that I think I'm probably not the only one in the world who suffers from this. So hopefully, what I'm about to say, maybe some people will hear some good advice, or maybe it will just keep me honest with what I want to do in 2025. Either way, it's a podcast episode. So I wanted to share some of these thoughts and see if this stuff may help you simplify your life too. And many of these things are ideals, of course, and who knows if I could live up to these ideals. But this is the stuff on my list for 2025, and I'm sure going to try to make it all happen. So here is how I'm going to try to simplify this year. And I got a couple of points here. There's 9 things to talk about. Why 9? Because that's how many things I came up with on my list. No specific reason for that. So number 1, I'm going to try to limit my time building up new systems and processes at my practice. So 2024 was a big year of growth, made a lot of changes. I added a procedure day to the week, so we're doing more procedures. I added direct access colonoscopy so patients can book their own procedures. And I started this podcast, and I built out this studio space, which is nothing fancy, but it did take a fair amount of work and time to do it in my off time. And we won an award in early 2024 for Best GI on Long Island, and that was pretty cool, and that attracted new patients to the practice too. So there was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it was a good year of growth, but now it's just time to focus. And I have to use the systems that I built up over the years to kind of serve the practice at this point. So I'm just going to try to provide patient care and let the systems do their thing. And of course, it's never totally hands-off. I have to do some tweaking all the time, but I think that I'm good. I don't need to keep adding stuff to my practice at this point. I think everything is pretty much optimized. And again, nothing's perfect, but we're close. And I'll always make little tweaks, but I don't need to make any huge moves, I don't think, in 2025 unless something major changes. And of course, that always happens, right? But I need to let the systems that we designed work. I need to delegate more. I need to micromanage less. It's a hard thing to do when you're used to being in control of your own destiny for the past 6 years. You have your practice, and every little thing that you do is you. You have to, basically, I have to do every little decision in detail myself, but now I have enough staff and I have enough help that I can start to delegate more and micromanage less. And I'm looking forward to that, although it will be a little scary. I have to remember to keep things simple. Number 2, I'm going to try to reduce my time. Well, I'm definitely going to reduce my time spent on this podcast by backing down to an every other week publishing schedule. So I'll be releasing a new episode every other week on average. Maybe you'll get an extra one here and there, but I'm going to try to stick to 2 to 3 episodes a month, every other week. I want to make each episode a little more interesting, but each episode will be maybe a little longer, who knows, but there'll be less of them. I want to have more interviews. I want to have less solo episodes. I think maybe an interview plus a solo episode per month will probably be where it's going to end up being. The weekly format is just too much for people. It's too much for me to get done. It's too much for people to listen to. I don't think people are listening to the shows when they're coming out every week because it's like, who has that time, that amount of time, right? How much of this can you take? So it's nice to see it every once in a while with better topics. I think if this show gets more popular, I'd love to go back to weekly episodes, but for now, every other week is really where it's going to be. It's a good balance, and it leaves me a lot of time to do other stuff in my life because, I can obsess over these things, and it just takes up too much time. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to stress about it, and you shouldn't either. Number 3, I'm going to try to limit my time doing stupid things with my time, like using social media or reading the news excessively. And my feelings on this are complicated because all this stuff is reality. We live in the world of social media and phones and the news cycle, and you have to be aware of a little bit of it. You can't totally stick your head in the sand, and a little bit's okay. It's entertaining. It's just like, I don't really watch TV, but I'll scroll Instagram Reels and laugh my head off about stuff or whatever it is. And sometimes you see new stuff and you learn stuff, but really it's the problem is when your mind is tired and you're just like, you don't want to do your real work anymore and you're just procrastinating and you start scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your favorite time wasting application is. And basically you just get sucked into the algorithm, and it ends up being a reprieve from your brain having to do anything for work. But then I just start doom scrolling, and a half an hour goes by and I'm just looking at stupid stuff. So that's really not a good use of time at all. And it's, the truth is, like, for my kids, like, I put limits on their use of their phone. I can just put them into my controls and can limit the amount of time they're allowed to spend on their phone doing stuff like this, because it's a big brain drain. So I do it to my kids, and I think that I have to add limits to myself because it's very easy to get sucked in. I don't think I have a problem with it, but I think everybody else, if you looked at your screen time, you're probably spending a couple of hours doing stupid stuff on your phone on average every day, and it's just really like a dumb waste of time. So it's the same thing for news. I think you can get sucked into the news cycle. People get obsessed about the news and every little detail about everything that's going on in the world, and it's really not very productive. It's good to know what's happening in our world, but I don't need to read 5 separate articles on the Russia-Ukraine war. It just doesn't help me, even though I'm fascinated and I can read it all day. It just does not help to simplify my life, and I can't do anything about these things. I can't change anything about these wars or politics or whatever you like to read about. But you can easily get sucked in and waste, an hour reading news articles or, scrolling all these different things on TikTok. So not a huge fan of wasting my time doing that stuff. And when I find myself doing it, the better thing to do is just to get up and go for a walk, maybe have a cup of tea and go for a walk around the neighborhood. Or if I'm at work and I'm nodding off trying to complete my charts, and I'll take a break mentally and go on Instagram and look at some reels, instead of doing that, I should go for a walk, or I should just go home. Maybe I'm done that day and I'm just too tired. Go home and have some dinner, and then maybe I'll spend another hour on the computer later at night and get my work done that way and stay off the stupid social media platforms. So we're going to do the best we can, and I think everyone could probably benefit from a little less screen time. Number 4, I'd like to start prioritizing the basics, the basic necessities in life. Sounds silly, but when you work, 80 hours a week on average or so, and a lot of it doing stupid stuff like making a podcast, not necessarily work, but when you work these crazy hours and you add stuff into all your free time, you start to miss out on the basics. Like, I'd like to get 7 hours of sleep at night. That seems like a good number. I'd like to get my diet back on track where it needs to be and start eating more healthy food. I'd like to routinely exercise like I have done for my whole life and just kind of dropped off. Going outside is a great thing to do. It's wintertime now, but even a winter walk is better than no walk. So it's good to get outside. It's good to see the sun. Social interactions, what are those? Who knows? I haven't seen friends in a long time. I'd see them, occasionally, but I kind of just checked out to everything because I'm always at work. So all this basic stuff gets lost in the madness when I overcomplicate my life with endless work-related and pseudo-work-related tasks. I like to get up early. I get up at 5 a.m. That's not a problem, 7 days a week. So it's never a problem. I can get some work done then and kind of do my thing then. That used to be my exercise time. And getting to bed at like 10 o'clock at night has been a problem because I just am working and busy. I just need some downtime at the end of the day, and I end up staying up late. Not a good thing. So like a baby, I need to work on my bedtime routine. And a lot of people probably also need to work on their bedtime routine. And, going to my last point, I actually don't tend to spend a lot of time in bed, like scrolling on social media. I think that's a big time waster for a lot of people. That's not my thing. I tend to just work late. I get home, I am hungry, and I just need a half an hour to sit there. So I got to stop doing that. I got to get home earlier, do less, and get some sleep. Number 5, I'd like to increase time spent at home with my family doing, quote, nothing. I always feel the pressure to do something productive when I'm home. If I'm just hanging out, I feel like there's stuff to do. I got to complete some charts. I have to research a new episode for the podcast. I have to read an article about something. I need to work on something for my practice. There's emails to do. There's the inbox to the practice with labs and biopsy reports. I can look through that so I don't have to do it tomorrow, for example. So in 2024, I tried to be physically more home. I made a little home office space. I did some more computer work at home. But I was not really mentally there. I was just physically home, which is not that helpful, and nor is it productive. So in 2025, I really want to be mentally home more too. it's okay. I have to tell myself it's okay. I could just go home and hang out. I could be doing, quote, nothing, even though I'm spending great quality time with my family. That's not nothing, but in my head, I'm like, I need to do more charts. There's charts that are, hanging over my head, and tomorrow's going to be a disaster if I don't do the charts or whatever it is. So, but time spent at home with my wife, my kids, hanging out, reading a book, talking, that's not nothing. That's actually what I'm supposed to be alive for. So I need to get that back in my life in a big way. My daughter likes to just chat about stuff at the end of the day, about her day and her friends and whatever, just normal stuff to talk about. She's 12. I mean, it's really important that I'm there for these conversations. And, my son, he's 10. He is amazing. He discovers new stuff all the time. And he discovered that he can do card tricks, but he can learn card tricks by going on YouTube and watching a little tutorial. And he's got like 5 or 10 pretty cool card tricks that he can do, and we like to practice them together. And he likes to go show people, and it's really exciting and it's fun. And this is just like quality family time. And it's hard to be present when I'm always super busy. So I'd like to stop being busy and simplify things. So less self-imposed projects and more doing, quote, nothing at home, which is really actually spending good time at home. The kids are growing up fast, and I'm growing up, and everyone's getting older, and we're not going to be around forever, and the kids are not going to want to hang out with me forever. So I need to really use this time more wisely. Number 6, I'm going to simplify my schedule and just free up a little bit of time for social interaction. I can definitely find 90 minutes every week or two for a dinner date or a lunch with friends. Owning your own practice, I don't really believe in the idea of a work-life balance because everything just seems to be together. But if there was such a thing, I've been about 95% work and about 5% life for the past several years. I'd like to get this closer to maybe 80% work and 20% life. That sounds more reasonable. So what if I leave some charts for the next morning, or if I don't get to return some emails or some calls until a day or two later? If I can get to free up an hour or two to spend with a friend or my wife or my kids, that's like a huge use of time that's much better than just returning emails or doing some other trivial task. And when I finish like spending time with a friend or family, I feel like I'm like 10 times more energetic, and I just feel better. And obviously this is obviously true. People need social interactions, and when you're living in a cave doing charts all day, it's really not great for you in general. So time spent with family, friends, loved ones is definitely a excellent investment in time. And the truth is the charts will be there later, but my friends and my family will not be there forever, and I won't be there forever. So I need to start living like I don't have an infinite amount of time to make up for all my time spent at work. Now, number 7, I have to also remember that I have hobbies and things I like to do personally. I like to read books. I used to read books all the time. What happened to that? Charts happened. I used to enjoy cooking and doing things that maybe were not so efficient. If I was hungry, I would like to, or the family's hungry, Dad's going to cook dinner tonight. That would be fun to do. I like to experiment with new stuff. I think I'm a fairly decent cook, maybe, above average for a guy, but not a great cook. I don't know, who knows? But everything got super busy, and I'm working, whatever it is. I just want to not be hungry. So I'll just eat junk or whatever's around. Not really junk, but I'll have a toast instead of a meal because I'm just like starving and running around, and that's not cool. So I need to start cooking again. I can do that. It helps to slow things down, and it's nice to cook for the family. And my kids aren't always happy because I'll cook some funky stuff with beans and all kinds of flavors, but hopefully they'll find some stuff they like. They secretly like my lentil bean soup, even though they lie about it. And maybe they'll try some new things in the process. I like photography. I used to enjoy just taking pictures for the sake of taking pictures, and there's been no time for that. So I have my iPhone, I take pictures on that, but I have a nice camera, and I really get into the photography stuff. I really like it. I like the lighting. I like the whole deal. You can kind of see a scene and you want to make it happen. And I used to keep my camera kind of all around me, handy wherever I went, and now I just never take it out. So that's a shame. Like, why not? I don't need to go out for a formal photo shoot every time I walk out the door, but I definitely would not be upset if I had more pictures of the kids or more pictures of things in my life. And, nowadays I don't really have time to edit photos anymore. If you're taking nice photos, you need to kind of go edit them and mess around with them on the computer. But I don't think I'm going to do much of that, but I will try to get the shots nailed down in the camera and just do a better job and be more present in the moment and kind of work on that hobby again a little bit. And even if I take pictures, 5 days a year, that will be 5 more days a year than I did last year. So I think I I got to add back some things in my life that I enjoy doing. So if it makes me happy and if it doesn't serve any other work purpose, that's still okay. So if you're doing something that makes you happy, but you haven't been doing it because you can't justify it, if it makes you happy, that's justification enough, within reason, of course. So that's number 7. And number 8 is going to go back to fitness. I alluded to this in the past a little bit, but I think I need to simplify the fitness thing in 2025. So you need to stay in shape as you get older. It prevents all kinds of bad stuff from happening. But more importantly, you feel good and you have a quality of life. And I don't want to be approaching 45, 50, 55, 60 and be one of these frail people that everything hurts and I bend over and I hurt my back and I can't lift a bag of groceries, because you see this happening and you can see how quickly it can happen. Because I've always been like a regular gym goer or exerciser. I'll go through periods where I'm at the gym all the time, or maybe I'll do home workouts or whatever. But that's been like forever, since college. And 2024 was no different. It started out actually great. I was really in a good gym cycle, but something just happened over the summertime. I just kind of burnt out. I was not sleeping. I was working too many hours. I was up in the morning doing charts, and I was trading my normal morning workout sessions for just computer charting nonsense. And while it helped me get through all the new patient volume, I need to really figure out a way to get that back into my life. So starting in 2025, I really just I feel frail, I feel weak, stiff, everything just kind of hurts. I just feel crappy and out of shape. Even though I'm doing a home workout 1 or 2 days a week, it's really not what I need. So instead of going back and doing these complicated gym routines 5 days a week with like a rigid schedule, that's not going to fit in my life either. So if I can get in 4 days a week of some type of workout, a mixture of basic weightlifting type stuff, some cardio, and just keeping it simple, some outside workouts, some body weight stuff in the house, and I get to the gym a couple days in the morning, that's perfect. I don't need to be a bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm never going to be a bodybuilder. I'm a skinny dude, and I don't need 4 different exercises for chest with complex schemes about how you're going to do the weights up and down every week. It doesn't need to happen. So I'm going to stick to the basics, a few compound lifts, some body weight exercises, and some cardio. Not every day needs to be an epic workout. The consistency is really what matters more than anything else. And I have to remember that I'm doing this for my future self and for my kids, so that I'll be around and I can do stuff in their lives as I get older, even if I'm 20 charts deep in the hole, because you know what? I'll always be 20 charts behind or whatever it is. I have to accept this. This is just a fact of life in my field. I don't need to end every single day caught up with everything at work. I can just be done. And now I'm taking care of myself, and I'll catch up with that work at some other time. Number 9, I need to stop over-explaining everything. This is the big one. I have a really big tendency to over-explain stuff. I'll tell a patient something about their condition from 3 different angles and perspectives and use an analogy or 2, and then sometimes the analogy takes longer than the actual disease process talk takes to get out of my mouth. Then I'll rehash it again, and then I'll add something else, and then I'll summarize it, and then I'll write it down and hand it to them. Some people like this because it makes things more clear. They like to hear it from different angles. They understand things when I explain things, and they say, oh, I really understand that now. I never understood that before. But I feel like 90% of people kind of like mentally check out when I do this, and I can kind of see it happening in real time. I can see their eyes kind of glaze over. I do this in my social life too, and I think if you don't believe me, just ask anyone who knows me. I tend to over-explain stuff. So why do I feel the need to do this? Like, do I not think that people are going to believe me if I don't explain some point to death? Am I not maybe giving people enough credit that they're capable of understanding what I'm saying? Maybe I have some deep-seated psychological problems and I'm not addressing them. Who knows? I don't know. But it's a huge time drain. And in 2025, I'm going to really stop doing this over-explaining thing as much as possible. I need to respect my own time. And I need to respect other people's time. And I need to stop talking about things repetitively for 5 to 10 minutes more than necessary, 20 times a day. Sometimes I'm aware it's happening, and I'm sure that lots of times I'm totally oblivious that I'm doing it. Wait, I think this whole podcast episode has been me over-explaining. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of The Real GI Doc Show. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player to catch my next episode. If you really want to show your appreciation for the show, take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a few seconds and is the best way to get other people to discover the show. If you use social media, you can find me under the handle @RealGIDoc, so feel free to follow, leave a comment, or just say hi. If you have a question about something gastro-related that you'd like me to answer on an upcoming episode, go to realgidoc.com or use the link in the show notes to leave me an audio question.
That's it for this episode of The Real GI Doc Show. Make sure to join Dr. Gandolfo next time to explore another interesting topic in gastrointestinal health. And remember, the views and opinions presented in today's episode are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed in this episode should be considered or used as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're experiencing a health issue, please consult with a doctor or a medical provider in your area. Thanks again for listening to the show.